Okay, so hello, everybody. I just wanted to introduce to you Anthony Williams. Anthony Williams was in my classes, and he did really well. And I'm just so fortunate. We're so fortunate, you guys, to have Anthony Williams come talk to us. He's going to share about his background, share about something that is really important to him, and then to give some tips to show his perspective. And so I think that this message that he's going to give is going to be inspiring, motivational, and hopefully help many of you who are watching out there. And so Anthony Williams, he is a motivational speaker. And like I said, we are really fortunate to have him. And so I'm going to let him talk, and because then he can share more about himself, so I don't give too much away. And he is studying at San Diego State. He's under social work. And so there is a lot that he can to give. And so, but without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Anthony Williams. So Anthony, thank you again for joining us. And just start by telling us about yourself.
All right, thank you, Professor Jordan. I'm honored to be here and to be able to pay it forward. My name is Anthony Williams. I'm the oldest of two. Born to a single parent. Grew up in the LA Watts area. In Jordan Down housing projects, is predominantly gang infested area. Didn't have a father in the house. School and everything was like a little bit shaky. I used to love school. Let me just say that growing up, school was like, I love like learning, but I went to junior high school. School became secondary because I had to make a choice on whether trying to survive going to school or to not go to school at all. And that was like one of the hardest things I had to do at the age of 15. It's like, imagine a 15-year-old having to like worrying about dying versus worrying about going to school. So I chose to live and not go to school because there was just so much violence. So my grades started to drop. Ended up joining a gang at the age of 15 for protection reasons, to try to make sure certain things that kids shouldn't have to worry about, I believe, like worrying about somebody taking your bike or doing things that you should depend on, law enforcement or older people to do, like starting having to grow up too fast. So I joined the gang at the age of 15. School became a thing of the past. Went to prison at the age of 18 with a life sentence for attempted murder. Was in prison for about 13 years. Because I made it to prison in 1996. And 2009, I remember having a friend that was going to get his GED. And I remember seeing him doing that and just like wondering, like, what was he doing that for? And like, he's just trying to find purpose and trying to find, trying to make the best of his time. And me, I thought it was a waste of time. I was like, what for? And he was like, I never accomplished anything. It started me to thinking about, me going back to school and then trying to find that passion again. And that's what I did. He enrolled me into the GED like study group program thing. Did that. Finally got my GED in 2012, which was rewarding. And then he was asking me about college courses, and I was like, college courses? He's like, I have money for college courses, and like where they're actually free because you don't have any income. And I didn't know anything about majors or like what area I wanted to go into, but I remember taking the sociology class, and I remember just learning so much about, people and, and behaviors and environments and things like that. I started to like learning again. I was like, oh man, this is cool, this is cool, this is fun. So I wanted to take more classes. So I started taking like history classes, arts class, and took history class, art class. I remember I took like 3 classes one semester, and then fortunate enough for me, because I was good at being like an inmate, they started releasing people from prison. And like I said, I was a lifer inmate. And when I went to the board in 2015, I remember going in and having a commissioner telling me that I had an opportunity to go home the next year, and it blew me away because I already had, at that point, did almost 10 years in prison, almost a little bit more than that, about 15 years in prison. And there were already people in 96 when I got there that wasn't going home. So I'd already had given up on going home from prison. But yeah, education fell right back into my lap. And that's when I started really getting into it really heavily. And I remember when I went to the board, like I was saying, it was telling me I had the opportunity to go home, but I didn't have any trades or anything. Like that's like working in prison. And when I told her I was going to go to school and I was going to try to become a counselor or try to become something, try to become a person that can help somebody that's having the struggles I had as a youth in education, not have to go through those struggles, because I felt like at that point there was a lot of things that I went through emotionally, psychologically, physically, that I can probably share with somebody else or probably, from experience. So I wanted to find an area that I can do that in. And in order for me to go home, I had to tell the board about like some of the habits I learned growing up and how those habits played a life, and how I picked up certain bad habits and good habits. It was just a lot of stuff about like the learning process of like the brain and the maturity of the brain and how we develop as human beings. And then I was paroled in 2016. I moved to San Diego. I didn't go back to the neighborhood I grew up in because I wanted to give myself opportunity to have like a different life that I control. Like I said, I was a gang member. I renounced my gang ties in 2009 when I started doing the GED program. And I was kind of hard because I felt like the gang gave me a name and an identity that I really thought was me. And it was hard to try to figure out who I was as a person, which is hard to do in prison because change is not, conducive in there. There's nothing that really supports change in there other than you doing it for yourself or finding like somebody that's really invested in it. But I was fortunate enough, like I said, to be around people that were already doing that. And when I paroled in 2016, I moved to San Diego on my own, no family, no anything. Only had one friend that was here that paroled before me. Another life for God, he did like 26 years. And I immediately told him that I wanted to go to school, and he took me to Mesa College, and I started to enroll in some classes. I didn't even know anything about a major. Like I told you, in prison, I took a couple of college courses, and it was like behavioral science. That was basically all they really offered. And now they was asking me to choose a major, and I chose child development. Then I was fortunate enough to be in Professor George's class, and it was almost felt like comforting to me because it was almost some of the things that I had to talk to the board about, like learning and then things that kids, learn and how do they pick up learning techniques. And so I kind of felt safe being there because I felt like the change that I applied to my life was me learning about my own behaviors and patterns that I picked up along the way that may have been good, may have been for survival, or may have been for the wrong reason. So that was good to fall right into a child development class. I felt like it dealt with some of the same things. And I'll never forget that music and motors class. That was like one of the best ones. I remember the whole making the instruments and everything. I actually was showing my girl that the other day, like the instruments we had to make and the tunes. But I love music, so I was like, "Oh, this is fun." So I think that was rewarding to me to be there. But it was a struggle. It was most definitely a struggle. I mean, there was some. I mean, I had to learn anything. I had to like relearn everything because the world that I left. And I'm sorry if I jumped too fast, but I went to prison in 1996. Well, 1995, and then I got out in 2016. So I spent over 21 years in prison. So the world that I left and came home to and completely changed, and San Diego was so much calmer to me than what LA was, because I was still used to like the gangs and the shootings and the helicopters, and to parole to San Diego and have like a fresh start to me was like almost like a dream come true. But it still was a lot of things that I dealt with psychologically, not enough to where it made me not want to still go forward, but there was a lot of challenges on learning technology. I've never taken classes inside of like a classroom, so I had to get used to like group projects and kind of finding out if I fit in. Sometimes I'm the only Black person, sometimes I'm the only male. So it was a lot of uh, unforeseen and a lot of seen like microaggressions I maybe had to deal with, whether people intentionally did them or unintentionally. I had to fight through a lot of that, make myself feel like I belong there. Yeah, and I remember my first PowerPoint presentation, and I didn't even know what a PowerPoint presentation was. I remember going to the 99-cent store, the Dollar Tree, and I didn't even know what a flash drive was. I just knew I had to do a presentation. I remember going and and buying those big white posters. And I remember going to the FedEx and having them like copies, like some pictures. And I remember I just did like a PowerPoint slide on like 8 big old like the big painting poster thing. And I remember I presented my project to the class that way. And I remember I probably shouldn't say this now because the professor's here, but I remember I lied to my other professor and I told him that I lost the drive because I was ashamed of telling them that I didn't know anything about technology, because that was another thing I had to deal with, even though I never had a problem with Professor George. But with some professors, and it was in my own head. I just felt like they probably wouldn't understand, but I did notice, like along the line, that they do understand when you do talk to them. But in my head, I didn't think that. I just thought like maybe I'll just say I lost my drive. At least I'll come do the presentation, then it'll still count. And then I ended up telling the professor afterward, but she was like, "Oh, you could have just told me what was going on, and would have had like tutoring for you or got you into a computer class or something like that." So that was another blessing too, learning that when I started to look at college as a way to connect with people and to learn more like a community type thing, it
Mhm.
started to make going to school way more easier. Like I was really making things harder on myself because I was in my own head instead of just being able to take a chance. And I don't know, I think that was kind of crazy, but kind of hard sometimes to go and tell somebody like, "Hey, I just got out of prison." And then me feeling like they maybe would judge me for that. But I've never received harsh judgment. Even right now while I'm at San Diego State, I mean, I ended up graduating from uh, Mesa College with an AA degree in Black Studies. And I learned a lot about my history that I didn't know, a lot of things outside of great Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks. I learned a lot about so many other great people that I didn't learn about growing up, that maybe would have motivated me as a young Black kid and Black boy to know that there are other great people that did a lot of other great things. So I ended up graduating from Mesa College with an AA degree in Black Studies. I transferred into San Diego State in 2019, and I'm in the social work class there. I'm part of Project Rebound, which is another formerly incarcerated justice impacted program that's at the California State University that help people transition into the bachelorette program. So I'm about to receive my bachelor's in social work in December. This will be my last semester there. So I'm just trying to figure out now what I'm gonna do with the social work degree. I don't know, that was a lot.
Yeah, no, but thank you for sharing your background, because I think that it's really important for viewers to understand who you are and what you came from and just all the obstacles that you did overcome. And I just remember, I just wanted to say, when Anthony was a student in my class, that he was pretty quiet, but I remember anytime he said something, people really listened because he was soft spoken, and the things he said were just, they're just so profound. And so Anthony also came back to some of my other classes to just be a motivational speaker for my students. So that's why I wanted him to do this. But so thank you for sharing your background. And then I'm sure that the social work field will have a lot that you will be able to offer. I do want to ask you, I know we had shared this before, but if you can tell the viewers, what is the issue that is really important to you?
I think one of the issues really important to me is like the education. I believe like it's so underrated a lot of times in a lot of communities. I think people don't really understand the value in education. For me, I believe education is a way for people to discover the world,
Mhm.
where there's other cultures, learn things about themselves, and just really that exposure. And I think a lot of times when people told me to go to school, they wasn't kind of slowing that down and explaining that part. I was thinking like, oh, school, I gotta go sit in the class.
Wait, hang on, let me see if I can pause this.
So yeah, the importance of education, I think, is for us to have opportunity to explore and learn things about the world and learn things about ourselves and just how diverse the world is. And for me, growing up in an area where you don't really see a whole lot outside of where you are because you're dealing with drugs and gangs and incarceration or the lack of education or resources for education. I think a lot of the kids are not being able to have an opportunity to explore those things without worrying about, those basic needs and things like that. So I really believe that that's like an area of concern, because here I am, 45 years old, and experiencing things that make me feel like a kid, which I like, but I would, if I could have done it a little bit earlier, I maybe should be right now in my career right now and enjoying that aspect of life. But I know that everything happens for a reason, so I'm not judgmental on that. I'm just ready to like do my part. I think the value in education it should be equally accessible to everybody. I mean, even when I was at Mesa College and I found out that high school students were able to take college courses and have them applied as units, and I wonder how many people in marginalized communities or other privileged communities know about that. Because I've never heard of that before, and I always thought that going to college was needed a lot of money. But if you're lower income, you can qualify for grants, and then there's scholarships. Like there's ways to balance out, trying to get into a career or doing something you're passionate about. So I just think, um, yeah, I think I lost the question somewhere in there.
No, that was good. Thank you for sharing about what's important to you. And I think that we're never too old to learn, to go to, like you were just sharing, just going back to college. I mean, I'm still learning. I'm still taking classes, because I think that we always just want to better ourselves. But that's just like you were saying, just how that it really helped you to discover who you are and more about the world. And so I think that is just so important, and that you continue in that. So I just am so proud of you, just continuing your education through San Diego State. I do want to ask you, as you share that education is really important to you, compare like how you, I mean, you touched on this, but how you viewed education growing up and compare it to how you view education now, and what has caused that change.
Growing up, I don't know if I really had like a real view on it, but I know I liked it. I didn't know what purpose it was going to serve, because there's nobody in my community that I've seen that took an educational route and they can show me some proof of how it added to their social economic status. Like you didn't see that, because I say it's poverty, so most everybody is kind of living off some type of government assistance. So it's like I didn't know how to balance it, but I knew I liked it. I know I liked the school, and I knew I wanted to go. I liked the math. I liked it, I don't know, I always thought I would get into some type of playwriting in school or something, because it seemed like that was always kind of like some fun stuff to do at school. But I didn't see any need for it. I remember as I was getting older and thinking about graduating, I was wondering what I was going to do after I graduated, because like I was saying, I thought that in order for me to go to a college, I needed to have a lot of money, and I knew my family didn't have a lot of money. So I'm thinking like, I ain't going to college. Like, what am I? And the average kids that I grew up around, I was fortunate enough to have a mother that did enroll in college before, that took some college units, and she didn't graduate, but she graduated high school. And so she tutored us a little bit while we were younger, and we was, not running around doing, bad things. But I was fortunate enough to have a mother that did value education, and my comprehension was good. I can read and I can write, I can spell, I can count. And the average people that I grew up with, a lot of my friends, they couldn't even, and not like ragging on them and talking bad about them. But I had friends that were 15 years old that couldn't spell cat, couldn't spell dog or duh. So I kind of felt like I already had graduated, and I was like, what do I need to complete high school for when I'm kind of ahead of the curve already, and I can comprehend a little bit better. I can figure out a problem, pretty much good. And I didn't start to value education again until, like I said, when I was in prison, and I seen my friend doing it, and I was wondering why. And he started explaining to me about having a GED and having, a high school diploma, how that's something nobody can take from you. And that's something when you put it on an application and you let somebody know you have that, they can look at you and say, okay, you took a significant time of your life and you dedicate yourself towards completing something. So that's what I took it as. And I was like, wow, I've never completed anything. I mean, I won some basketball games and some football games, but nothing that's attached to my name that follows me wherever I go. And I can say, I have that. And when I did that, and I started to value education more and to see how you need that to compete in this world, like have some type of training, some type of trade, or some type of level of like credentials to show that you spent some time learning something. And then coming home, I knew that I wanted to like continue that. You know, I didn't know which way I was gonna go. I felt like education grabbed me and just and kind of was like, you need to be used in this area somewhere. And I just kind of went with the flow. I mean, you remember I was still working full-time job and hustling to your class still when I was working at Dixieland, because I was like, I don't know what it is about education that something I need to be doing there. I think I'm starting to figure it out. I think it's that piece about allowing kids to see early on,
Mhm.
not being so and that's another thing too, because a lot of kids that like a lot of these communities, they have to worry about so much and they don't come home and just worry about school. They're coming home and probably there's not enough food, or probably there's drugs in the house, or probably there's one parent and you know they don't get a chance to really just focus on kid stuff. Like come home and it's like, okay, what's for dinner or go play or something. It's like no area, especially now when we have COVID, you have like the Wi-Fi
Mhm.
situation and even though it's getting better now, hopefully, but now I value education in the sense of trying to expose, but I think the exposure piece is the part that's missed with a lot of kids growing up. They don't get exposure to just finding themselves and what they like. And I think it kind of uh, leads them down a path of like, uh, I want to say regret probably. And I think that's why, and that's just my opinion, I think that's why we have sometimes so many people that have majors or go in areas and then they end up not using them for what it is, because somehow people push them into areas and they, you know what I mean? They do something that's
Mhm.
like, okay, I have a degree in social work, but I'm working on the construction site. And I also know some people, you know, have to make things work for money. Sometimes you have to be interchangeable, but I think some of those things show up like that. I don't know if I answered the question or not.
No, you did. I mean, just to say how, just your viewpoint on education now that you do see it as something that is important for you. And I know that then you shared the obstacles, and I know that money is definitely an obstacle for some people. And then just, but then to have that, to know that there are opportunities and programs out there. And I think we're more aware of that as a society now. And so hopefully going forward that they will be even more opportunities and education, or just awareness of how people can access that, and set that that shouldn't be a barrier. So, and one, so the question now I have is when you were just talking about when you were, your view of education as a child. So what can people do, especially people who are aspiring to be teachers or to work with youth? What can people do in those fields to inspire or to help, like, you know, children, kids in your situation when you were young, to realize the importance of an education?
I think, well, like for one, exactly what you're doing is finding people that have some type of lived experience that you can put a, you know, uh, put that like that human to human contact
Mm.
beyond. I mean, we need books, we love books, and we love, you know, but having somebody that you can look across that sometimes and see it and then feel that struggle, you know, makes you feel like something we're doing right now in San Diego State with Project Rebound. We're doing that peer-to-peer mentor where you can actually see somebody or talk to somebody that's in those fields. I think it'll give a lot of teachers and a lot of programs a lot more firepower when you have people on your staff sometimes that have that experience that's like backing up things that you're telling them sometimes, where they can be like, okay, I can feel that, or I get that, or that sounds like something that I've been through or something that I can relate to, even if it's not something that I personally went through. I can see certain areas in there where I struggle, and now I can see how that played out. So I think it's just, yeah, and I also know it's all about us being able to make our needs and concerns aware too as students, and that way we can receive the help. Like I said, I can't remember a time where I ever didn't get support from the college or the professors, but it was just always in my head, me thinking like, oh, I'm being a burden or something. That's like now, since I'm at San Diego State and I learned those tools when I was at the community college, because you know San Diego State is like almost 10 times the students almost in one class. So I immediately let them know, like, hey, this is what I do know, this is what I don't know, and I'm going to be pounding your office hours because I'm gonna need some help. Because and
Mhm.
the feedback's been good. Just think being uh, open to listening to the student. I mean, I know at the end of the semester you kind of do like a check-in on what you need to do and what's going on. I think if somehow you can do that during the semester sometime, just a brief check-in. I mean, anonymous, like, well, how's everybody doing? Like, what's going on? I think sometimes that can kind of speed things along too. But I think at the end of the semester, sometimes people are so like tired and burned out, they really don't want to even fill out a form or something, or they just trying to like, I'm just ready to go. Like, here it is right now. Sometimes.
Yeah, no, that's really that you brought up a really good tip. I'm like actually a few, just having that personal contact. I think having just so for people out there who are trying to want to be teachers and you're thinking, I want to be able to make a difference and help others, just reaching out and being able to talk to the other person, asking, hey, how can I help you? And that's what we were saying, having that social support is so vital and important. And then just to be able to be available for your students or whoever that you're helping, that is really important, and just that person-to-person contact. So I think that's a really excellent point that we just have to keep in mind, because there's a lot of people who are going into the teaching profession. We want to help our students, and sometimes, and I want you to know that you're not a burden. I mean, I think that I am actually really flattered when you do reach out to me, and because then I think, oh good, he actually thinks I can help him or
Yeah.
just to have a conversation. And so I think that that's a good point, is just to be able, for those of you who are students, that you reach out, and because there are going to be people there who will want to help you and that they're there. So I think that that's a really good, some tips that you gave that were really important for people to hear. And so let me just see. So from your perspective, like what are the, okay, so you shared about the interaction that people need, but what are some other needs that you see for education going forward that would help students like yourself,
Some of the needs going forward.
or for even the field, like the needs in the education field, or just just to like changes that that if you could implement, that you could do, just kind of some insight into how education can be strengthened.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think it's always trying to figure out how to get. I don't know. I think I'm still trying to figure that one out too, just a little bit. Trying to just get people to be more comfortable with being vocal about what they need. You know what I mean? Like what type of assistance they need. I think that's really like one of like major thing. Like, how do you get people to feel more calm and more motivated to verbally say like, okay, I need this help without feeling. That's like even right now, we have people in Project Rebound. I say it's a justice impact program, but a lot of the students are so afraid to tell the professor that they've been locked up. They're afraid they're going to be like judged or marginalized and things like that. So I think this, I don't know, it just takes me all the way back to bringing people in, like the way you brought me into your class to speak just about resilience. And after class, a lot of people were saying like, oh, I have a brother that's been locked up that's trying to get into school. Like, it's very cool. Like, I want to like connect them to you, or just letting people knowing that they're not struggling alone. I think that's one of the things that like would be really big, is bringing people in. I remember back in the days, remember we had those career days and stuff like that sometimes, and then you sometimes see people in career day that you don't really think you can achieve that. Like, you don't really think you can do those things. I don't know. I think somehow we probably need like a career day on a more adult level or something sometime. Like we're not too like you said a minute ago, we're not too old to learn, but we constantly learning. I think the peer-to-peer mentor, or just the constantly bringing in people and having, whether it's workshops or on a more older level. But for us, like with the kids, I think it's trying to bring more resources, I guess, into those areas, because it's like a lot of like uh, I learned a lot from social work, and I know like schools and books and everything have to do with tax dollars now, which I learned a lot about areas and how taxes or refurbished back into the community and things like that. So I think Like I said, they might think I'm just saying that to just be saying that, but I'm really honored to have met you. Like from day one, when I explained my situation to you, then never judged me, supported me, made me feel comfortable. And I think it's just being aware of that when somebody said that, or if you have students that need that help, and kind of just checking in and making them aware of that. Because I know at San Diego State, they send you so many emails. A lot of times, like Project Rebound, we might have 25 to 30 students, but they get so many emails from the school because there's so many organizations that people don't even check their email. So we implemented
Mhm.
this semester is kind of breaking down all of our students and giving all our mentors like a specific amount of students to check in on the norm versus the stuff get lost in those emails sometimes. And I think that's a lot of times that's what happened with school. It's a lot of stuff on the website, but who's actually highlighting these things like on campus or through uh, talking about it during the semester as things going on. I don't know if I answered the question or not, but I was trying to get
No,
in there.
you do, and I think that one point that you brought up, and I wrote it down, was to provide the resources, because even as a professor myself or teacher, I don't have all the resources. But then if I think of what my students' needs are, and I'm trying to think, okay, I don't know the answer to that, but to be able to find the resources for my students. And so for those of you who are in the field who are watching this, to find us some resources for the people that you're serving. And I think that being able to share your background with your professors is actually a good thing, because then they'll know how to, if you need any accommodations, but just to understand. I think, like, for you and I know we've gotten to know each other, which is great, just having that dialogue. And so then I think that that open lines of communication is really important. One thing I did want to ask you is, I know that you're working towards social work, and then you're talking about the importance of education. So what do you, I mean, now it's like kind of getting into, like, so what do you see for yourself, like, going forward, that you would like to do?
I would like to start either a nonprofit or either some type of corporation that deals with. I've been working right now and doing outreach for Project Rebound on the like community college level. I'm not on the community college level, on the CSU level, but we've been communicating with all of the community colleges in San Diego, and we got them on like a monthly meeting. So we've been kind of checking in, trying to see what's really going on in that area, and it's not specifically towards like formerly incarcerated. I mean, I'll help anybody that needs help, like FAFSA or anything like that. But just because I was working for Project Rebound, that's the area that we kind of fell into. And we even went back further into like the JJCs and the Department of Justice Center to try to figure out what's being done with the youth that don't make it, between the cracks and make it to community college, that maybe have problems at junior high school and high school, because that's why I had a lot of my problems at.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fortunate enough that it might sound like a bad thing, but I really believe that prison saved my life. I really probably would have ended up either dying or maybe paralyzed or something, because I was heading down that road of destruction from being in the game. So, and I didn't like school, so there's like survival over school, and it's like fight or flight almost type of thing. So I would what I envision me being is like a part of like my own nonprofit, which I've been working on right now just a little bit with a couple of my social work coworkers and trying to iron out the details. I've been showing up to a lot of nonprofits in San Diego and just kind of trying to figure out what their needs are, and then doing like a little needs assessment, and thinking about doing like a little like a pilot program, like maybe 8 weeks, and try to get some students involved in that, try to figure out where the help is needed, and then maybe implementing that and hopefully being able to like bridge that gap. Because we noticed the gap from, I say, from community college to the CSUs is kind of tight, but we wanted to go back a step further and kind of try to get to the kids a little bit earlier before they make those life-changing decisions sometimes, early in those mid to late teens. So I really want to like implement something in there. And I've been having a lot of offers from other programs that wanted to hire me on as a mentor, but I just feel like I have my own vision, and I don't want to like, not saying they're not doing good jobs, but I don't want to be hired on as a mentor that don't have that. That education is my passion, and I believe
Mm-hmm.
that that's going to be something that I can bring to the table from lived experience, or just bringing in other people that are educated. So that's what I envision, like having some type of nonprofit or some type of corporation that deals with like young uh, young teens and young adults, transitioning them to that adulthood like smoothly.
Yeah, and that's great. I think that to start a nonprofit, especially with your perspective, with your experience, with your background, that you'll know how to help people in your own unique way. And I think that you'd be able to help a good number of people, just knowing where they're coming from. And so I think that's a really great goal. One thing I did want to ask you just really briefly, because you mentioned Project Rebound and I didn't give you a chance to talk about that, but if you could just kind of tell us just in a minute or two, what is Project Rebound? What does it do? Because you are very involved in that. And so I want people to understand, why it is important to you. But just really briefly, tell us what Project Rebound is.
Okay. Project Rebound is a formerly incarcerated, justice impacted uh, program that's been started in 1967 by John Irwin. He was locked up before. He has a couple of degrees in criminology from UCLA and San Francisco State. And he started the program because he's seen that a lot of people that were being locked up coming home didn't have a second chance opportunity to compete for their bachelor's. And he created Project Rebound. And the chancellor of California State University thought it was a great idea and helped him open up Project Rebound. And Project Rebound now is at 16 campuses throughout the CSU, California State Prison System. I mean, California State University System. Sorry about that. And it's a program that really is unique in the sense that what we do is we connect with the community colleges to make sure that the formerly incarcerated justice impacted people that are coming home have an opportunity to know that we're there and we can help them get from the community college to the CSU. And it's a really smooth transition too. It's really almost like somewhat of a guarantee of your GPA levels upward because they have a lot of slots that, and I like it because it lets people know that, and I'll say this, it lets people know that are really fighting for a second chance that somebody believe in them. So I like it because it's like if you do your part, you almost have like, and it's not only in San Diego, we have, I say it's all throughout the state of California, all the way from this part of California to San Francisco State, Long Beach, San Bernardino, Pomona, Salinas Valley. So we're pretty spread out, and they give plenty of support with books and the department, but it's mainly for formerly incarcerated justice impacted students that are at the CSU level.
Okay. That's great. That's good. Thank you for sharing about that. And I'm glad that you're so involved in that, and that because you can definitely, you have that background. And so then you're able to help people effectively. And so that is, thank you for sharing about that. So as we wrap up this interview, I just want to ask you, so what, is there anything else like just the final words of that you can impart your wisdom and knowledge to us, like what you would like viewers to know, to share, to be able to, help in this cause, or maybe just, any last words of wisdom that you would like to share with us?
I would say first and foremost, like don't like give up on yourself. Like, I mean, it may feel like you're in it alone sometimes. And trust me, I've been on prison yards where I've been in cells by myself, or I've been in predicaments where I thought there was no light at the end of the tunnel. There's always opportunities for change and for you to make a change. And it's like I said, it's not about how many times you fall, it's how many times you get up. So just constantly believe in yourself, and and know that you're not in it alone. But only way people can help you sometimes is you make those things known, and don't be afraid to take a chance. Everything involves risk. And if there's anything that anybody can do to help the cause out, I would say just be aware sometimes when people reach out to you, and resources are always there. And it's one thing people always say, like, I remember when I was away and it was like, tell me, what are you gonna do to eat? And it's like, you know what, there's always places that have free food and food on campus. There's always a way to find something. You just got to be able to just put the time in, put the work in, and just find it. Just believe in yourself, and time is the only thing that's valuable. Don't waste time, and don't think that time is wasted. If you find yourself behind a little bit, you still can can get back into it. Yeah, that's probably the best advice I can give, if that was even any advice.
Oh yeah, no doubt. That was so good. Every time I hear your message, I feel like I always learn something new, and I love the words of encouragement that you just said at the end. That just to be able to just not give up on yourself, and to know that people are there to help, because there's so many good people out there who are willing to help, and to be able to share with others, because if one person doesn't want to listen, there's going to be other people. Don't let anybody stop you, and just keep on, trying to find that people who are going to be able to help you, because there are going to be, and you'll get to the resource that you need, just like you said. So I'm going to go ahead, and yes, I'm so excited to be able to share this message. So I'm thankful again. So thank you, Anthony, for joining me. If you have any websites, if you have any things that you would like to share with others, I can put it as a link as in the description below. And then in the comments below, I encourage my viewers to share, tips on how to start a nonprofit, any words of just advice for Anthony that you have. I would love to see that. So don't be afraid to comment below. I just, anything that if there was just insight you gained from this, and hopefully this video has helped or will help you, as if those of you who are becoming teachers or going into the social work field or just the humanities field, that you can, that this will help, because that's why I wanted Anthony to make a video with me. So I'm just so thankful. And I was just kind of glued to every word that he had to say, which I hope that you guys were too. So on that note, I am going to end. And so thank you, Anthony. Very appreciative. And yes, like this video and subscribe to my channel for more content. All right. Thank you.